Welcome to the Expansive Astrology podcast, where we look at using astrology beyond the tropes and horoscopes to tune into the natural forces around us and within us, honoring our true nature to craft our future. I'm your host, Melissa, the Self-Care Witch, and I'm here to help you meet your magic. Without further ado, let's begin this week's episode with a tarot reading for the collective. Hi! Welcome back to the Expansive Astrology podcast. I have episode 29 here for you today, where we are finally diving in to Sagittarius season. It's a week behind. I accidentally needed a week break. It was not planned. I didn't really intend to, but then it just kind of happened. And turns out that was the best thing for me. So I'm sorry that this episode is a week late, but thank you for being here. Thank you for waiting. I really appreciate you. And I'm so excited to finally really dig in to what Sagittarius brings, what the invitations are for this season, how I think of Sagittarius energy and how I use it every year. But first things first, collective tarot reading for the week. This is a 4-card check-in spread. Take what you need and leave the rest, right? Some things that I say today might really resonate. Some things might not so much. Either way, I invite you to really stay open to seeing how these things might play out for you over the week to come. Because I do trust that if you're hearing this, you're meant to hear it. All right, we've got a bunch of court cards this week. Let's see what came up. Present for us this week is the King of Wands, the King of Fire. The kings of each suit are like the expert of that suit. They are the ultimate embodiment, the ultimate leadership, the ultimate embodiment and teacher of what it means to be in and have and use and be an expert of wand energy, fire energy. And there's a few different ways that we look at fire energy. Fire or wand energy. The wands represent our power, action, our ability to do things, like our creativity and passion, our motivation, our ability to create things in the world. And so it's our energy. It's how we alchemize things. It's and the king of wands is like the ultimate embodiment of the deep root work that we go through from the ace through the 10, through the page, knight and queen, and then we reach the king. It's the ultimate embodiment of the root work we've done when it comes to our fire, when it comes to how we use our fire, how we sustain it, how we engage with it, how and when we utilize our fire, how and when we use our energy, what we give our energy to, how we reclaim our energy. In Soul Tarot, the Page of Wands is Leo. The Knight of Wands is Sagittarius. And the Queen of Wands is Aries. And then the King is kind of the culmination of all of the magic that all three of those fire signs, all three of those wand court cards, the King is like the culmination of all of that. And anytime we pull a court card, which we have 3 of them this week, I like to think of it as sort of an invitation to step into that energy for myself, like to embody what that means for myself. Whereas like the major arcana are kind of energies or experiences or like supports that are just like present for us when we pull a major arcana card. It's kind of saying, This energy or experience or support is here present for you. You don't have to do anything except for welcome it in and engage with it and stay present with it, right? That's kind of how the major arcana serves. And then the minors, like the ace through the 10 of each suit, kind of describe different, very human emotions or experiences or very human things that we move through. They're like very practical experiences that we do, that unfold for us, right? And then when we pull the court cards, it's an example of what we're being invited to step into, what we are being invited to really engage with and play dress up with. So I like the idea of playing dress up with the King of Wands. What does the King of Wands look like for you? Can you pretend that you are a leader with your fire energy, that you are an expert of how you use your energy, how you sustain yourself, what you give your energy to, right? Can you be a leader or an example of what it means to live in devotion to your passion and your heart in a way that is empowered and enlightened and in control, right? In a way that is um, truly embodying leadership, like having fire, being in devotion with your passion, embodying and embracing leadership and power, and making sure that you're not burning bridges, making sure that you're using your fire appropriately. And our showing up in King of Wands energy is supported by Knight of Pentacles energy. So the Knights are about movement, they're air energy, so it's like movement and messages. And the Pentacles are earth, groundedness. It's how we engage with our humanness and the earth as big, huge, expansive souls. How we deal with the limitations of our brains and our egos and our circumstances and our society, right? So the Knight of Pentacles invites us to look at how we are moving through the world in terms of our earthly circumstances, I guess, how we are engaging with our resources. So this Knight has a willingness to move slowly. Anytime I pull a pentacle card too, it's different flavors of devotion. It's different ways of looking at devotion. What are you devoted to? What do you think you're devoted to? What do you feel you're devoted to? And as you're moving through the world, what does it appear you're devoted to? You know? And not to call anybody else out, but I'll say for myself, to the fly on the wall watching me, it would appear as though, I'm devoted to my child, I'm devoted to my home, I'm devoted to my computer and my fucking phone. you know, like, and I would say I'm devoted to a million things before putting my phone on the list, right? But the way I move through the world might not reflect that so much. The Knight of Pentacles has us looking at how we are moving through the world, slowing down, moving with care and devotion, checking in with the soul before engaging with anything, making sure that we are only engaging with things and moving toward things that fuel us and that are healthy for us and helpful. And making sure that as we're passing through, we're being careful and intentional with how we're moving through the world, with how we're speaking to people. I really like that. Even though the Knights are mutable because they move, and they all represent mutable energy according to Soul Tarot. Some people disagree with that. That's fine. But I like that sense of devotion and intention and care when we're moving through the world. I love that that's showing up as the root system or the support system for our King of Wands work this week. So present for us is an invitation to show up as a leader, to show up boldly, connected to and fueled by our fire. Really paying attention to how we're utilizing our energy and not being afraid to use our energy and to show up with our fire, with our passion. And that work is supported by a groundedness, a slowness, like, well, maybe it doesn't have to be slow, but it does need to be very intentional and careful. The Knight of Pentacles is very intentional and careful. Um, Making sure that our King of Wands work and our King of Wands action is centered in and built from very careful, embodied Knight of Pentacles energy. What we're learning this week is the Queen of Swords. Now, when I pull this card, it's like the Queen of Boundaries, the Queen of saying hard things, the Queen of standing up for ourselves, of managing our boundaries, right? Setting a boundary or stating a boundary in some way. Like that's what the Queen of Swords, that's her strength, that's her gift, is her ability to use her voice and her tongue effectively, her ability to set and maintain boundaries, and also she has an openness. She's willing to let people in. Like it's boundaries where there's also like doorways and thresholds and doorbells, right? Like it's not about being completely closed off and hardened to the world, but it is about maintaining our boundaries in just a very matter of fact, practical, self advocacy, like it is what it is. These are the boundaries, and you will not cross them. I won't allow you to. If you try, you know, I will protect myself. And that doesn't mean lashing out or like using your sword to like off with their head, right? But it does mean shielding yourself. I always say, I work with clients on this every week. I work on it myself every week. And maybe the Queen of Swords showing up as the lesson spot might be indicating that we are learning that it's our job to say the boundary and it's our job to withhold the boundary. Technically, it's other people's job to respect it, right? Like ideally, they would fucking respect it and not cross the boundary. But technically, I don't think it's their job to do that. At the end of the day, it is our job to withhold the boundary and make sure people don't cross it. And there are situations where of like abuse and where people do fucking cross the boundary. Unfortunately, that happens. And we can be clear as day, we can be the most embodied, effective Queen of Swords possible when setting our boundaries, right? And still people will violate that. Like, it's just the way people are. It's our job ultimately to protect ourselves from that, though, you know? So if you don't want people texting you after 10 p.m., you put your phone on Do Not Disturb after 10 p.m. or you block them, right? If you ask somebody to stop contacting you and they keep contacting you, like it's ultimately your responsibility to withhold that boundary. You state the boundary and you hope that they'll go easy on you and just respect it, right? And it's our job to follow through on what the boundary is and what it means. I hope that makes sense. Like, obviously, people need to respect you. And if they're not, if they're repeatedly violating your boundaries, that's a serious problem. That's a serious problem. And you don't have to put up with that. In Queen of Swords energy, we're learning how to say no. We're learning how to set boundaries. We're learning how to use our voice. We're learning how to disappoint people. We do it all the time. We'll say, don't text me after 10. And then somebody will text you after 10 and you'll respond and say, I told you not to text me after 10. That is you breaking your own boundary too. Right. So they can break it. They can text you at 10:30 or 11 and you can either have your phone on Do Not Disturb and notice it the next morning, or you can notice it when it happens and not have your phone on Do Not Disturb. Either way, It's data, right? You just take that in, you just notice like, wow, okay, I set a very clear boundary and they broke it. Tomorrow at an appropriate hour, I'm going to Queen of Swords this shit. And just make sure that you can maybe reiterate the boundary, but make sure that you don't also break your own boundary at all costs. I hope that makes sense. And then finally, given all of that, our anchor this week is the Four of Pentacles. And this card is about boundaries. It's about how we are engaging with the world, what we are letting into our world, how we are engaging with our resources and what is available to us. So, the anchor this week, our invitation this week is to really look at what we are engaging with, what we are letting in terms of our time, our energy, our relationships, our energy, our body. Again, it's like kind of a boundary card, making sure that we're only engaging with things that are good for the soul, that are feeding us and nourishing us, that we're protecting ourselves from everything else. Some questions I always ask with the Four of Pentacles are like, what have I been engaging with? What have I been letting into my world? And I think of like social media, Twitter, TikTok, where you scroll and we are letting into our world, our brain, our eyeballs, our psyche, our knowing anything, right? You can scroll past anything. And to a certain degree, like you can mute words and block people. And to a certain degree, there are like protections in place to make sure that we're not assaulted with, really terrible things when we're scrolling on like TikTok and with Twitter, who knows anymore. Um, so to a certain degree, we can be confident that we're not going to see anything like horrible, but I don't know, man. Like I've seen some really horrible things scrolling on the internet, and you're consenting to do that, right? As you scroll, but like, do you, sometimes I don't really think about that I'm technically giving my consent to see and hear and take in anything. It could be anything. And like that does have an impact. What are you consuming? Media wise, and otherwise. What have you been consuming? What have you been engaging with? What are you using your body for? The Four of Pentacles is about deep respect for our body and our garden that we're growing. Having deep respect for our humanness and our experience on planet Earth, and engaging with our body, our humanness, planet Earth in a way that is intentional, in a way that is fulfilling and careful. So I hope that feels helpful. That's our tarot reading for the week. So now moving into the expansive astrology for the week, let's dive in to Sagittarius. So Sagittarius is our 9th sign of the zodiac. Sagittarius is a mutable fire sign ruled by Jupiter. In the tarot, we have the Temperance card, and the Wheel of Fortune is ruled by Jupiter. So the Wheel of Fortune kind of has a flavor of Sagittarius as well. Sagittarius is symbolized by the Archer and rules the 9th house of mental exploration. The phrase for Sagittarius is I see. You all know how much I love the transition from one season to the next, and moving from Scorpio into Sagittarius. The way Sagittarius brings us a fire that we so need, especially in this hemisphere where the days are super short and we have like daylight savings bullshit. So they're even shorter. And Ariana Grande, when she released Sweetener, there's a song where she says, "The light is coming to give back everything the darkness stole." And I like every time I hear that, I'm like, oh, Sagittarius. That is so Sagittarius to me. The light is coming to give back everything the darkness stole. We just moved through Scorpio season, a death season, and now we're in Sagittarius where we get to say yes. We get to explore. We get to expand. Unlike Scorpio, Sagittarius releases and resents attachment. Like, attachment is not even a thing this season. Sagittarius is a visionary, it is optimistic, it is expansive. Sagittarius symbolizes the search for wisdom, a willingness, a passion for exploration. This season, we're aiming our arrows toward the sky, unafraid to expand and dream. We're embracing our ability to turn a dream into action. We're looking at how we bring our knowing, our dreaming forward and out into the world. Along with Aries and Leo, Sagittarius is the final fire sign of the zodiacal year. The element of fire can show up as just a spark, or it can quickly consume everything in its path. Fire is action and movement, and it can be constructive and loving or destructive and brutal. It can bring warmth and nourishment, or it can burn and corrode. It can prepare the ground for something new to grow, or it can destroy what already stands. Sagittarius helps bring us into a deeper relationship with fire. Sagittarius is mutable fire. The mutable signs are Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. These signs are those who are most flexible, most willing and capable of adjusting, adapting, and changing position. This means that they're resilient and able to withstand and adjust to changes that life throws at them. The risk, however, is in being too flexible, too willing to adjust or go with the flow. There's a balance there, and reminds me of this little phrase that has stuck with me since I first heard it in like my adolescence. The idea of bend and not break. There are times where that flexibility, that mutability are a needed, necessary gift and power. There are other times where that can lead to like flakiness or enmeshment or like lack of boundaries or like an unclear idea of where you begin and where you end. Just something to stay aware of and to notice. Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, which is known as the planet of luck, generosity, abundance, and expansion. The largest of the planets, Jupiter brings an energy of hope, even in the face of adversity. In mythology, Jupiter ruled the heavens. It is said that Jupiter fathered the deities of commerce, love, springtime, the sun, the moon, and wisdom, among a few others. Roy Gillette teaches that the Hindus call this planet guru, or teacher, and they say the greatest lesson in life is to have an opportunity and then learn how to master it. Jupiter brings opportunities to overcome our problems and barriers, and it's a skill to stay open to the opportunities that are presented to us and to know how to use them, right? Opportunity comes in the form of knowledge, support, reassurance, encouragement, invitations, or even funds. Every person we meet, every place we go, we can find opportunity everywhere. Sagittarius is represented by the archer and the centaur. The archer represents directness and adventure. It represents reaching for the stars. The arrow implies that focus and skill will bring success. The archer reminds us to shoot for the stars and to hold back and concentrate before firing. That is the life work of mutable fire. That's the life work of Sagittarius, is learning how to be the archer, learning how to use that mutable fire in a way that is focused and skilled. I have another quote from Roy Gillette because I love his work, and he's the president of the Astrological Association. Roy says, quote, "By focusing upon the ultimate goal, all other aspirations will fall into place and energy can be used most effectively. In ideas, beliefs, and actions, this is the Sagittarian path to fulfillment." Unquote. This season, we're looking at we're using Sagittarius energy to help support us in looking at where we are focusing our fire, where we are focusing our arrows, learning how to focus upon the ultimate goal so that other aspirations will fall into place and our energy can be used most effectively. The centaur is half man and half horse, and Sagittarius is the only sign to be represented by both human and animal. Interesting little fun fact. The centaur represents the conflict between humankind's primal desires and civilized behavior. I love that. That invitation to kind of get a little wild, to touch in with our primal side, which Scorpio helps set us up to do, right? Oh, it's so good. Sagittarius rules the ninth house of mental exploration. This house is wide ranging, encompassing all of life's long journeys of both mind and body. Those experiences that bring us perspective and meaning and expansion. This is the house that surrounds the adventure and growth and wisdom that we gain before returning back home. A house of travel, curiosity, and broadening our horizons. How do you satisfy this part of you? Books and conversation? Or travel and adventure? This house relates to how we learn, outside of school. School doesn't teach us how to learn. How do you learn? This house also relates to philosophy and spiritual expansion. We get to focus on our expansion, focus on what we are devoting our energy to. What are our arrows made up of? The phrase for this season is "I see." Sagittarius is the sign of the visionary, able to see all possibilities and courageous enough to shoot for the stars. In its most empowered expression, Sagittarius is a dreamer. It's a visionary. It is generous. It is active and flexible. It's willing to say yes, and it is confident. It's adventurous, a little idealistic in the best way. It makes the impossible seem possible. Sagittarius is courageous in that way, ambitious, optimistic. The sign of wanderlust, open-heartedness, a willingness and eagerness to learn and explore and expand. On the other hand, disempowered expressions of Sagittarius energy are impatience, idealistic in the worst ways, thoughtless and hasty, fears saying no, flighty and leaves projects unfinished. It's undisciplined and reckless, restless, uncommitted, permissive, a lack of boundaries, a waste of fire and energy. So this season, if you notice yourself in those disempowered places. See how you can alchemize that into an empowered version of the same energy, right? We're learning, we're working to alchemize like restlessness and recklessness into action and power. I think this is where the idea of being a skilled archer is so important for Sagittarius. Focusing that mutable fire, engaging carefully and skillfully. Part of the challenge of Sagittarius, it's like Sagittarius's life work is to cope with, work with, live with this like limitless craving, a risk of like burnout, excessive passion, lack of discrimination, lack of follow through. A big challenge for Sagittarius is to not become overwhelmed with its own fire, with its own ambition, with its own sense of expansion and exploration. Remember, we get to decide what we engage in. We can use powerful, mutable, moving fire in a way that is within our control, in a way that is empowered, in a way that does not contribute to burnout or overwhelm. This strong desire for exploration and freedom is healthy and beautiful and wonderful. Like, follow that call and make sure that that strong desire for freedom doesn't like contribute to an illusion that you're stuck when you're not, right? Having like a no strings attached philosophy toward life can be truly positive and freeing, or ironically, it can actually be kind of limiting. Sometimes strings and groundedness, connection, anchoring, attachment, sometimes those things can actually contribute to our freedom. Right? So there's kind of an invitation just to be very careful with how we're engaging with our freedom. Like Sagittarius is learning how to grow and expand and dream and explore and also stay rooted in and grounded in and have a healthy relationship with the here and now, with the presence, um, learning an expert use of our fire, where and how we are right now, like both dreaming and seeking expansion and exploration and being present where we are. In the tarot, we look to Temperance and the Wheel of Fortune to represent Sagittarius energy, as well as the Knight of Wands. So, Temperance is the card that follows the Death card. And in the Pamela Coleman Smith illustration, we see the image of an angel. And often this card is compared to like an ethereal experience of holiness in the afterlife. In Soul Tarot by Lindsay Mack, Temperance is more about our willingness to be a vessel rather than the driver. That's how Lindsay Mack puts it. It's about being willing to co-create with something bigger and more powerful than you. It's this experience of learning that we can live in connection with the soul rather than the ego. Temperance invites us to explore what it would mean for us to structure our lives in a way that is in alignment with the soul, in a way that is more connected, more tuned in, more in rhythm with the soul than with the ego or like our cultural expectations or whatever we've been conditioned to structure our lives around, right? If in the death card often represents like the sloughing off of some layer of egoic experience, then temperance is what is left after that sloughing off, after that death of some sort of egoic layer. Um, the temperance card is how we show up out of that chrysalis. Temperance takes us out of our egoic experience and into further alignment with what our destiny is, with what our soul wants. Really touching in with our hearts, our souls, spirit, our guides, and learning how to put the brain and the ego in the back seat. And most of us have been carefully trained not to do that. Like, there are so many ways that we are trained to neglect our gut feeling, to abandon ourselves, to escape discomfort rather than like dealing with it and setting boundaries around it. We are trained to put ourselves last in order to not disappoint others. To live from a truly soul-centered place is fucking hard and usually requires a lot of change, which is often why we don't even go there. A lot of people don't even go there because like the change can be totally overwhelming. It means acknowledging our privilege where we have it. It means adjusting our relationships. It means adjusting how we show up on a day-to-day basis, what we engage with. Living from the soul requires checking in with ourselves over and ourselves and our guides over and over and over again, constantly checking in. Like, is this what's best for me? How am I feeling? Is this what I want? Is this in alignment? Is this still in alignment? Is this still in alignment? Is this still in alignment? Is this relationship something that I should continue to engage in? Is this something that I should be sharing of myself? Is this something that I should be saying yes to? Is this actually in alignment for me? Is it still in alignment for me? That can change in a second. That's why there's like a constant checking in process. And like to fully honor our soul's yeses and nos, even in the face of disappointing other people or disappointing our brain or our family, our community. It's fucking difficult. And it's always important to note that like this is not just about the things that we're truly stuck in, right? Like we do have to make a paycheck one way or another, and sometimes it is soul wrenching the ways that we have to make a paycheck, right? So this is not about the ways that we're like truly stuck and like recognizing that this earthly experience, as much as it's our work to continually align with the soul and check in with the soul and make sure we are in alignment. Part of this experience of being a human being on earth does require and include engaging with things that just suck. Pain and taxes and grief and loss and heartbreak and betrayal and anxiety and like it's not easy. Living a soul-centered existence doesn't just mean gushy cushy time all the time and Costa Rica retreats and like spirituality 24/7, right? We are also humans and we are stuck in a lot of ways for a number of reasons, and like let's honor that, right? Let's be with that and acknowledge where that is true. But this is about those things where those cycles that we can change, that we can get out of, but we don't for whatever reason, right? We don't. Temperance helps initiate us into a new way of being. It reminds us that somewhere along the way, something major has changed. We've let go of something big. We've reprogrammed ourselves in a way. Some story or belief or way of being has shifted or changed or left us entirely. And now Without it, we have this new space to receive what it is our soul actually wants and needs. It's the idea that when we go through a death process, when we let go of something that isn't working for us, it leaves us with more space for what will be more in alignment for us, what will be a perfect match for us. This is a Sagittarius style journey of self betterment where we are continually checking in and asking, what do I need to know? What am I being called to see and do and look at? What am I willing to see and do and look at? I am willing to honor my guides, my gut, my soul, even if it's not what my brain wants right now. Lindsay Mack says it's as though temperance reminds us, quote, I do have all of these gifts and all of these potencies and all of this power in me. And I also recognize that I can only get so far without this essential part of me, without the soul, without a connection to my wildness, without a connection to what's possible. Unquote. We also look to the Wheel of Fortune, ruled by Jupiter. The Wheel of Fortune is about finding our center so that we can be present with and surrender to changes as they unfold. The Wheel of Fortune has us ask, even when things are very unclear, how do we show up and respond from a sense of centeredness? How can we stay centered in the midst of expansion? This card is ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter is expansion. This invites us into an act of choosing to surrender. It's about rewilding our sense of time, moving from a place that is not so egoic. Sound familiar? Where we know we have no control really over hardly anything. Like we know that things are unfolding in ways that we can't possibly control or understand, no matter how hard we try. So the Wheel of Fortune is an invitation to both surrender and come back to center. We're learning to work with the unfolding of our lives without gripping for control, the illusion of control. You have a choice. You can either try to grip the wheel and steer according to what you think you need to do, or you can release control of the wheel and center into your power and watch it all unfold around you and stay moving from a centered place. There's like a sense of personal responsibility, a sense of surrender, a sense of receptivity, a sense of trust. How do we work with our brain's desire to control? How do we work with the unknown? It's a practice. It's a practice of staying in our center, an ability to be present with whatever is here, even if brain and ego is inviting you into a whole bunch of contraction and questioning and freaking out. When we're in Wheel of Fortune energy, we can say to ourselves, there is a lot happening. There must be an expansion coming from me. And I do not need to know. I do not need to know where this is going and how I'm going to get there. And in fact, it's safest to never presume that we know where we're going and how we're going to get there. Right? This is an opportunity to outgrow the idea of needing to know how our life is going to unfold, to outgrow our need for trying to control. It's an opportunity to truly learn to trust the timing of our lives. We've all had these moments. The times where maybe you thought you knew what you wanted, and then life ended up handing you something totally different that ended up being 100 times better that you never could have predicted, right? And the opposite has certainly been true for us at times too, where life handed you something totally different than you wanted and it felt not better. It can feel devastating, right? But what do we do with that? How do we show up to that? So, what does it look like to be in the center of your wheel no matter what is surrounding you? How can you stay with what is directly in front of you that you can work with, that you do have power over? How can you maintain a sense of centeredness and trust no matter what is going on within you or around you? Maintaining a sense of centeredness and trust even when the brain is completely freaked out and contracted. Remembering what we can and cannot control and staying in our power. I also want to touch on what the suit of wands is, and specifically the Knight of Wands, because that's fire energy, that's mutable fire energy, it's Sagittarius energy. Now, the suit of wands represents and illustrates what it means to be alive and move with our messiness and how we embrace our power. The suit of wands is about getting our hands dirty, moving with passion and drive and creativity. It illustrates growth through uncomfortable circumstances. It helps us learn and evaluate what are we offering our energy to and our time to? What are we devoting ourselves to? Are we able to balance and respect and stay in control of our fire? Have you been honoring your right to honor your fire? How do you engage with your power, with your energy? Are you more of a candle or a bonfire? Can you hold things to like a rolling boil? Or does your fire turn into like a wild forest fire? Do you know when and how to rest and take breaks? Do you know how to play and refill your energy bank? The Suit of Wands is about checking in with all of those factors that are necessary when we're creating or working with fire, working with energy, with our root system, with burnout and preventing burnout, looking at how you move through the world, honoring your pace, honoring your energy, honoring your frequency. And the Knight of Wands really encourages like a state of flow, moving in a way that provides pleasure, moving through the world that is like in a way that is uniquely you, moving through the world in a soul driven way, in a temperance type of way. Really moving through the world, rooted in those empowered expressions of Sagittarius that I shared earlier. That's the Knight of Wands, and that's Sagittarius energy. And later this season, we are going to be really diving into what it means to be courageous, what it means to be optimistic and have optimistic, what it means to explore and dream. And we'll be diving a lot more deeply into what it means to stay in alignment with the soul, how to live a truly soul centered existence, Sagittarius style, how to live in a way that promotes a sense of freedom that doesn't um, resent or fear or resist, like attachment and grounding, right? Balanced freedom. Those are some of the themes coming up later this season. And please don't hesitate to let me know what you'd like to hear. Now, before I wrap up for the week, I have an astrological forecast for you. I'm going to do it a little differently. First, I want to share with you where all of the planets are and what they're doing. And then I'll share with you what the moon is doing. I'm hoping that by doing it this way, rather than day by day, um, knowing where all 9 of the planets are, rather than just if or when one individual planet is moving from a sign or stationing direct or something like that, on by, like, daily. I'm hoping that by each week listing where all 9 of them are, it'll give kind of a more complete picture. Let me know, and it's printed in the show notes, so you can take a peek for yourself. But let me know what you think of this. So, this week, first of all, we have the sun in Sagittarius. Mercury is also in Sagittarius, but it moves to Capricorn next Tuesday on the 6th. Speaking of Mercury, Mercury goes retrograde at the end of December, and I'm hoping to have ready for you retrograde revival guide. I'm really hoping to have my retrograde revival guide program ready for you for this upcoming retrograde. And it is like the perfect program to move into a new year with. So, like, the timing is actually really wonderful for that. So, stay tuned for more information on retrograde revival guide. Now, Venus is also in Sagittarius for about one more week. It'll move into Capricorn next week. Mars is retrograde in Gemini. Jupiter is in Pisces. Saturn is in Aquarius. Uranus is currently retrograde in Taurus. Neptune is retrograde in Pisces and is due to station direct in Pisces on Friday the 2nd. Then finally, we have Pluto still moving in Capricorn. Now I'm going to list times that the moon will be void, of course, this week. Not so that we overly structure our lives around these things, but more so that we can kind of stay open to observing how these things may play out for us over the week to come. Also, remembering that there is an invitation that when the moon is void, of course, when it is between signs, maybe we take it a little easier on ourselves and take it easy on like goal directed, externally directed energy, and spend these little pockets of time a little more quietly, focusing on tender, slow, careful movement. Ooh, the moon is void, of course, Tuesday the 29th from 1:53 a.m. until it enters Pisces at 7:15 p.m. Wednesday the 30th, we have the waxing half moon at 9:36 a.m. Thursday, December 1st, the moon is void, of course, from 9:44 p.m. until it enters Aries at 11:41 p.m. Sunday the 4th, the moon is void, of course, from 12:46 a.m. until it enters Taurus at 6:38 a.m. And then Tuesday, December 6th, the moon is void, of course, from 2:02 p.m. until it enters Gemini at 3:49 p.m. And then the next day, we have the full moon in Gemini. You can join me Sunday, December 4th, this next Sunday at 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time from your living room via Zoom, or if you're local in Old Town Fort Collins. We'll be having a moon meetup all about this full moon in Gemini and how to use that energy to help us further our goals and alignment and manifestations. I would love to have you there. You can find more information and RSVP on my website. If moon meetups are something you're interested in attending on a regular basis, please consider supporting the podcast by signing up for the Meet Your Magic monthly membership. Now is the time to do so because I will be sending out 5-card spreads for the month ahead for all of my members throughout this coming week. You have until December 15th to sign up to receive a December tarot spread. If you have any questions about that, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. It's a great way to support the podcast for just $21 a month. And you can attend unlimited moon meetups, and you get a 5-card spread that I hand type for you, channeled in real time. Like, none of it is copied and pasted. Like, I write it for you in real time. I'm so thankful to my members. Thank you so much for being there. Thank you so much for being here. I love ya so much. Thanks for being patient with me when I took a week off. Like I said in the beginning, it was an accidental break that I didn't really know I needed. But in hindsight, like I'm really glad that it happened that way. 'Cause I am feeling refreshed and really jazzed and excited about um, what is to come this season. So, thank you for being here. Thank you for hanging in with me. Thank you for your feedback and your support. Thank you for rating and reviewing and sharing the podcast. It means so much. I love you so much. Take really good care of yourself this week. Embody that King of Wands energy. And I will see you here next time. Bye. Now, before you go, let me keep your ear for just a moment. This week's episode is brought to you by www.theselfcarewitch.com, my bread and butter, where you can find more information on my current courses, offerings, and other fun ways to connect with myself and yourself. If you enjoyed this episode and you dig what I'm doing here, please subscribe to the podcast, rate it, and leave a review. It helps so much. And if you'd like to connect with me, head to theselfcarewitch.com. I'd truly love to hear from you. Until next time, take care.